In 1988, in this exact spot in Berlin, people escaped over the Berlin Wall to East Berlin. Actually, this had always been in East Berlin, but it was a part of East Berlin that was on the other side of the Berlin Wall. And when East Germany sold it to West Berlin in 1988, a group of protesters occupied the small triangle of land to prevent what had become an area of green growth from being developed. That's getting ahead of the story. Let's sit back in time to the start of the Cold War when directional Berlins became a thing. These were determined when Berlin was first majorly incorporated in Greater Berlin in 1920, and this triangle was part of the Mitte district. The problem is that these districts were formed without any thought to a Cold War happening. Rude, I know. So when the wall went up, it was in the most expedient manner possible, and some of it resulted in the wall just chunking off bits of East Berlin outside of the wall. To skip over a lot of history, this had become untenable, and in the 1970s, the Berlins began exchanging land with each other. It was a great way for East Germany to get money, in fact. West Berlin and East Berlin would get things logistically easier, and West Berlin would deposit a chunk of money into East Germany's bank account. So you see in this map of East Berlin from 1963, the entirety of the former Potsdamer Bahnhof was technically inside of East Germany, but as East Germany had zero desire for that to exist anymore, most of the station was outside of the wall, and then it was lopped off into West Berlin in the 1970s. Train stations were notoriously an easy and soft opening in the wall for people to just escape through. And this brings us to 1988, where an agreement was reached between West Berlin and the German Democratic Republic for, among other things, the Triangle. As mentioned, the Triangle becomes occupied by, well, every movement of dissident and anarchist and green and everybody, and becomes known as the Kubat Triangle. And while it's technically East German territory, the border guards had zero desire to remove these protesters. And then when the West Berlin police tried to force them out using tear gas and other projectiles, the East Germans actually protested the fact that technically the West Berliners were attacking East German territory. Finally, July 1st, 1988 rolls around, which officially makes the territory West Berlin. And now the police were free to move in, and this causes some of the people that were squatting inside of the triangle to flee over letters and constructs over the wall into East Berlin, where border guards were waiting with trucks. By the way, for the entirety of its existence, East Germany would say that the Berlin Wall's purpose was to keep people out. And if you had letters and constructs that made it easy for people to just jump over the wall, this kind of defeats that purpose, wouldn't you say? Anyways, those that fled the west into the east are immediately taken in for processing, warned that border crossings can only be done at designated checkpoints, given a small breakfast, and then driven right back to one of those checkpoints and politely has to leave. And if you've been paying attention, there's a lot about the functioning of the Cold War, at least in the Western East German relations, about this story. The border wasn't absolute. It was something that East Germany was willing to trade for money. The wall was supposed to keep subversive elements out and not to be used as a ladder for breakfast, and the West had its share of people who frankly weren't happy with their actions either, who still viewed the situation as better than the one immediately next door. And you can keep going, even the name Kuba can uncover some interesting Cold War history. So yes, very funny moment about people just jumping over the wall, going from west to east, because the standard Cold War narrative is that people only fled from the east to the west, but even in that, there's a lot to learn about the Cold War.